Who is a misfit? Misfits come in kind of different personalities and different approaches. In many ways, misfits are people who don't adhere to traditional path. People who, let's say, don't want to go to college or didn't go to college or dropped out or had life happen and they figured, you know what, I'm going to do something else. Maybe those are the ones who are rediscovering themselves after a 20-year career in some industry, right? Maybe it's career switchers, changers, maybe whatever that may be, right? Misfits are people who don't really do much traditionally in a traditional way, right? So what we talk about when I talk about misfits, I talk about people who not going to be afraid to use this metaphor, but are square pegs trying to fit into a round hole. Unfortunately, our society has been set up in such a way that misfits are forced or convinced to try to fit in, to try to fit into that round hole. We talk a lot about, in schools and colleges, we talk a lot about, at least I did when I went to college, professors talked about critical thinking and the importance of developing the critical thinking, right? Problem is that while we focus on developing critical thinking, we forget about developing thinking, just thinking, right? People don't like to think. They don't like to, it's uncomfortable. And our brains are actually very protective of us. So any chance the brain has to protect itself and not think, it uses that chance. And so I've actually had a tutor back in the day, math tutor. She was a PhD in mechanical mathematics. And she said that in the entire department of mechanical mathematics at the university, she and another colleague of hers were always thinking about hypotheticals, problems, solutions, and things like that. Other people would dismiss a problem, would go for what's called a familiarity bias, where you think you know it and you apply the same kind of, just not to think, you apply the same thinking process that you've already done before. And she said that this guy, her colleague, anytime she would have even a simple problem, even something that has been done before or whatever, he would be jumping in to analyze it and to think through things like that. And I think it's safe to say that nowadays, while focusing on critical thinking, we forgot about thinking about thinking, right? Adam Grant's great book, Think Again, is a phenomenal book and really makes you think about thinking, right? There are many books. One of my favorite ones is The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. He talks about also like thinking time, dedicating thinking time, right? Very few of us do it. And especially when you have young kids, young family that you're trying to grow, your business, and so on, it's very easy to get into that mode of just trying to fit in or trying to do it the same way that's been done before. That's why all of these info businesses selling you the how do you build a funnel, how do you do that, makes you stop thinking, right? And offer you solutions, the shiny objects that we often fall for. Great misfits, people who are never lazy to think, are never afraid to think through things, right? There's quite a few of them in the world. We often talk about or we hear about geniuses, right? People who are really, really smart, whether it's naturally or learned, talk about different ideas. Now, geniuses reach goals that other people can't reach. People who are very smart, or let's say in sports, people who are very, very skilled, reach goals that others can't reach. Now, there are people, quite a few of them actually, who are much more than geniuses. Those people are misfits. For them, the acknowledgement of the fact that they are a misfit, that they are trying to fit into that square peg into a round hole, they realize that they're well aware of that moment, of that point in their life. Those people are the people who reach goals that others can't even see. Love him or hate him, Elon Musk is one of those people. When Apple Pay came about, not that Elon Musk created Apple Pay, but when Apple Pay came about, I was thinking, why in the world would we want to pay with our phones? And now it's simple. The key to your car is your phone. Your wallet is your phone. I don't carry bags anymore with me. And it feels great. Driverless taxis, driverless vans, delivery vans, driverless robots or whatever that is, right? Who can automate some of the mundane, some of the minutia stuff are changing our lives slowly. But somebody had to imagine that. Somebody had to see that. And people like Elon Musk see goals that others can't even comprehend or see or imagine. And I'm always drawn to people like that, people who see things that we can't even imagine, that we don't know we need. Who knew that we would need Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever? Who knew that having a driverless vehicle would be something that we would want? And yet there are people who do that. So misfits are not people who understand that they are a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. Realize that and stop wanting to fit in. Moreover, misfits are people who don't just build a square hole for their square peg, but people who don't care about the hole at all. That's the real misfit. And if you pay a little bit of attention, you will notice people like that around you. They will always talk about things that sometimes you don't understand, you get confused by, or you don't see. But those are the people that change the way we live every day. Sometimes it's incremental changes, sometimes it's big changes. Mark Zuckerberg, another example, right? Love him or hate him. He created Facebook. He's a dropout of college. He created something that we didn't know that we needed. Maybe we don't, but that's another conversation. Misfits are people who want to change something, want to do something differently because the way it is, it doesn't work for them anymore. Often, those people are entrepreneurs. Often, there are people who don't work for other people. There are exceptions to that rule. There are people who work for other people who behave with an ownership mindset. I think those people are misfits because that's not mainstream. If that was mainstream, businesses would grow much faster and much easier than they do. But people who have ownership mindset, like my husband, he has an ownership mindset at his work. He runs his job as if it was his own business. Because of that, he knows it really well. He knows how to make it efficient. He knows how to save the employer money. Granted, not everybody pays attention to that. Not everybody realizes that, but he does that. He saves the company a ton of money because he knows how to do his work and he has ownership mindset. Those people, misfits, they don't really care how others live their lives. All they care about is how they do. And that's also another thing that separates them from other people. So oftentimes, creative minds, right? Photographers, artists, actors, dancers, directors, all of the creative minds, many of them take full-time jobs secretly hoping that one day they'll be running their own show, doing whatever they want, not fitting in. Unfortunately, the realities sometimes are that we have to fit in. And sometimes if you do this smart, that reality is that it may not be forever. It may not be for good. You just have to make little steps, tiny steps every day to change that. But if you keep working the same job secretly dreaming about running your own creative business or your own show, whatever that is that you want, then the whole life goes by and nothing changes. And that's where I get really sad. Entrepreneurs in general are generally misfits. I mean, think about it. A lot of immigrants, first generation immigrants, start a business because they just don't see for themselves going back to school for a long time because they have to support themselves. They don't see going and working. Some of them have to work, tough work. Construction it's a hard job. Restaurants, deliveries, and so on. Some of them do that. Some of them do that for the rest of their lives, and some of them do that for some time and then make steps to change their situation, their circumstances, which I really love. Those are true misfits. People who don't go to college right away, people who take some time and then come back when they're older, like I did. Those are misfits, and misfits are great people to have on your team. They're usually stars because they know their own worth. So we'll talk a lot about misfits. I'll talk a lot about misfits because I am one. But the main idea is I want you to understand who those people are, where they live, how they think. They don't believe that I see it done this way and that's it. There's no way around it. They see it differently. Misfits, if they realize that awareness moment, pivotal moment, right? Linchpin moment, they realize that they are a misfit. If they learn to own and accept it, or accept and own it, that's when they can turn that into being a maverick. Maverick is someone who's a trailblazer, someone who is the best of the best, someone who has accomplished something that others couldn't accomplish or couldn't see, whatever that is, right? So I'll talk a lot about that because in my own journey, which I'll talk about in another video, in my own journey, I found that you can stay a misfit for the rest of your life, or you can do something about it and change your circumstances. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe.